And Lewis, what's your worst experience that you've ever had with a seller? Go on, blame me. You blame me all the time. Come on. Bring it to the table. Give it me.
Well, as that seller, you had that seller call you. She was an engineer. So typically, I don't know why the people that have that mathematical background or that engineering background seem to be really hard to deal with sometimes.
With the client that you were talking about, she called me up as the broker owner of the business, said, I want the best agent that you have. So, of course, I know you've worked in that area and you took it, and then I'm starting to hide under a shell.
No, I mean, she had a beautiful house, and just like all my clients, once they sign up for my services, I go up and beyond everything, to get that property sold. So she was actually living in Corpus at the time. So she needed some electrical work done. So I went over there, let the electrician in. We had an offer come in, and during the visit, they realized that I guess the potential buyer went up into the attic, and he noticed that there was a hole up there from one of the vents was not on their property. So when I found out, I went back over to that property. I covered that hole up to make sure, because it was going to be raining that day. And then the next day or the day after, went back to that property to let the roofer in to get that property that repaired. So I'm going to the house multiple times. Then went to taking the pictures. The seller was in the middle of the move, so she had boxes everywhere. So when I went, they had the photographer go out there. I went and I moved those boxes into the garage so those pictures could come out, immaculate, spectacular. And in spite of doing all this, when we finally got an offer, the lady got bothered because the buyer was asking for a $500 home warranty plan, which is no big deal. I mean, it's nothing. But she was adamant that when she was selling, she did not have to pay for that. When she bought the property, she didn't have to. No one bought that for her, so she wasn't going to pay for it. So, and she kind of ruined the deal, because once she started getting upset about that and being petty, the buyer became offended, and so we didn't sell the property. Later on, the year expired. She called me back and said, "Hey, let's put it on the market again." I said, "Sure, okay." And I sent her the listing agreement, but she changed the listing agreement date from 6 months to that 90 days. And I told her, look, I already told you I don't do short-term contracts. I'm not a discount broker. I offer full service, and unfortunately, this is my fee. So she didn't have a problem with the fee, but she just had a problem with the time. She wanted me to do it in 90 days. It was like, I can't invest that much money in 90 days, especially when, we know you're going to be difficult when we get an offer in.
Well, she wants you to give her a full commitment, but she didn't want to give you hers.
Exactly.
Right. And, discount brokers give a discount service, regardless of what you say. They just can't spend the additional money to put in to really get ahead of the Realtor.com and the Zillows, to get it into a position where your property is coming up. Because what happens is, with a lot of these tech companies now, they're specifically pushing different listings to generate leads. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it to help somebody sell a property. They're doing it to push advertising and so they can even sell the people that click on Zillow and Realtor.com, and they're selling them leads to realtors.
Right.
So they're not getting quality realtors. What they're actually getting is realtors that can't generate their own business,
right.
That are buying the leads, because that's how they do.
For the people that understand what leads are people who go to all these websites and sign up. They sell your information to realtors. That way, when you sign up and you ask for information on a house, all of a sudden you got like 10 realtors calling you, asking you, do you need services and that? Because your information was just sold.
And some of the listings have already sold.
Exactly.
Well, how do you? For some of these sellers, how quickly do you think things can go badly? I mean, have you got any experiences of that?
Well, not me personally, because I'm great, but
But a lot of sellers call you up and they say, I found out about I've got a referral for you, Lewis, and we always ask, what went obviously you've got to find out where they are, and so you can find out. You don't want to repeat the same problem, which I'm sure you wouldn't, but
Right. Typically, I've had went in and house in Kingwood. Went in with my listing presentation. My presentation is amazing. And so I went there and I told them, it's like, hey, hire me. They didn't. They hired someone else, probably because there was another office, real estate office, probably about half a mile away. So they hired someone from there. 6 months later, they called me and say, hey, we couldn't get the property, so can you come back? So I went back, and they pretty much told me it's like the agent that they hired just wasn't doing the work. And one of the things that they were upset was that the entryway was dirty, and there was cobwebs, the entryway was dirty, and they said it didn't make a great impression when people come look at the house in their sleeves and stuff on the entryway inside the house. When I went and I took over the listing, I went and of course I swept up and I said I just need a broom or something here to make sure that I can clean up after a couple of visits. When I see people in the house, I can come by and just sweep up or something, make sure it always looks decent. I took all the cobwebs around the outside of the house, to make so it didn't look like a haunted house, and I ended up vacuuming the entire house because you could see all the footprints everywhere, and it's like it almost looked like 1,000 people have visited the house, but the house was still on the market. So it's like, why 1,000 people look at the house and no one's bought it? There must be something wrong with the house. So I went over there and vacuumed the house. So that's the type of service that I offer. So that's one of them where things can go wrong. You don't hire the correct agent. First of all, the house may not sell. The other one is. I was representing a buyer in Pasadena. The appraisal came in low, and I told the buyers like, "Hey, looking at all the other houses, that list price, the price they're selling the house for, that's a fair market. That's a fair price." So we went and offered the $120 for that property. Appraisal came in at 106. So I asked her to send me the appraisal. I explained to her, it's like, hey, look, the appraiser messed up here. He put a house, he used a house at a comparable that has sold in 2 days. It was originally listed for like $95,000. I called both agents, the buyer's agent, I called the listing agents. And I called the listing agent and say, hey, can you tell me more about this house? Why did it sell so fast in that market? It wasn't the seller's market. So why did it sell so fast? Was it sold to a family member? They said, no, someone else bought it, but the property did have problems with the foundation and electrical. Oh, okay. So I called the buyer's agent and said, hey, can you tell me more about the property? What happened? Why did it sell so fast? Or why did it sell low? And it said, well, we had it on the contract for 95. After the inspection, we got it down to 87 because it's in horrible condition. There's electrical issues, there's foundation issues, and then the remodel that was done, it was really bad. I said, but the pictures look good. I said, yes, the pictures look good, but it's a horrible remodel. They did a horrible work. We were hoping that the appraisal would come in lower so we can lower that price. But it didn't. The appraisal came in right at 87. I asked both agents, did the appraiser call you? Because I've had appraisers call me about houses I sold a year ago, asking the details. It's like, what are the details of the sale? And it says both of them said no. The appraiser did not call me. So how is this appraiser going to use a house that sold in 2 days that had all these issues? This house is obviously not a good comparable for the house that we're buying. So once I explained that to my buyer, she's like, that makes a lot of sense. I still want to buy this house at 120. I said, well, don't worry about that. I'm going to do my best to get that price down. So I called the other agent. I say, hey, the appraisal came in low. Came in at 106. She goes, oh, can you send me the appraisal report? Well, I know that if I send her the report, she's going to see the same mistake I did, right? So I said, I don't have it. Let me get it from my client and let me see what I can do. And I just called her the next day. It's like, hey, what's your seller willing to do? She goes, we're willing to go down to 110. I say my client $10K.